Delegates and guests, the program will begin in 5 minutes. Please find your seats.
Pledge of Allegiance. All the way to
Delegates and guests, please come to order. Welcome to the California Democratic Party's May Executive Board meeting. ¿Estamos listos? Okay then, let's begin general session. Please welcome CADEM Chair Rusty Hicks.
Good morning, California Democrats. How we doing? Now, come on now. I know it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. You all stayed out partying a little too much. How we doing, California Democrats? Are we fired up? Are we ready to go? Yes, well, thank you all for being here this morning. I just want to welcome each and every one of you to the May 2024 Executive Board meeting of the California Democratic Party. I'm here to call this meeting to order so that we can get on with the important work. So are we ready to get to it? Let's get to it. All right.
Delegates and guests, please stand if you're able and welcome Christian Figueroa, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, California Democrats. Please place your right hand over your heart and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and please be seated.
To deliver the land acknowledgement, please welcome Chair of the Jamul Indian Village of California, Erica Pinto, and the Chair of the CADEM Native American Caucus, Mary Ann Andreas.
Hauka, welcome to Kumeyaay country. My name is Erica Pinto, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Jamul Indian Village of California Tribal Chairwoman. With me is Mary Ann Andreas, Chair of the Native American Democratic Caucus. The original inhabitants of this area were stewards of this land with a profound relationship to the ocean, the valleys, the streams, on what we now call San Diego. This land has sustained our ancestors long before European contact. Our people prospered and survived on what foods the lands and seed offers. I hereby acknowledge that we are standing on the beautiful traditional territory of the Kumeyaay, Liseño, Cahuilla, and Capeño people who were the original caretakers of this region. It is here that we practice our ceremonies, our songs and dances that continue to this day. Every day we pay our respects to our strong, resilient relatives, past, present, and future. And we recognize the legacy and many contributions made. We honor the many ways our culture and traditions continue to have significant impacts that remind us about the sacred and spiritual relationship that exists today. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Erica said it all. She talked about the shared territories. I'm of the Cahuilla Serrano from out by Banning Morongo Indian Reservation, and talking about our culture and our history. You heard the song that was played as we walked up. That is what we call a bird song, sung by Mike Morales, a young man who is very prominent in our community for singing bird songs and teaching bird songs and keeping our culture alive. It is very, very important, and I want to thank the Democratic Party for always doing a land acknowledgement and recognize the contributions of Native Americans. Thank you.
Delegates and guests, next up, Jane Wishon, Interim Co-Chair of the Credentials Committee, to deliver the Credentials Report.
Good morning, Democrats. There you go, good. This is the most exciting report of the day. The interim credentials report. So far, we have had 256 credentials picked up, which is really, it's like about 60% of the eligible e-board votes. And have a great day. Thank you.
Once again, Rusty Hicks.
Let's thank Jane Wishon for the most exciting and the shortest report today. Let's give her a big, big round of applause. Thank you. We are coming together this weekend to celebrate all the great work that has been done and to prepare for all the work ahead. But I think many of us, certainly I do, and I know that many of you, come to this meeting with a heavy heart from the tragic loss of one of our own. Last Friday, our very own Peggy Moore and her wife, Hope Wood, were lost in a tragic accident. And it gives us a moment this morning. I thought it fitting for us to begin this morning's meeting by reflecting upon the work that Peggy and Hope, and Peggy in particular, was a part of, connected to the California Democratic Party. When I was elected in 2019, coming out of the labor movement, I always knew that I had hoped and talked about and hoped to institute a real organizing culture in our party in a very institutionalized way, that we have a department, that we would have organizers doing work all across the state. And I began to think about, okay, who is the best organizer to have that conversation with, to help build and begin to build that program? And there was really one name, Peggy Moore. So she was one of the first conversations that I had, one of the first leaders who came on to the staff of the party to help to begin that important work. But her work with the party was just a small part of what she had done to advance the issues that she cared about so much. We all saw them. She wore her heart on her sleeve. She never met a person that she didn't connect with. We knew her, we loved her, and now we miss her. And to take a moment to reflect on all that she did and all that she was to so many of us, I want to invite Congresswoman Barbara Lee to the stage.
Well, good morning. First, thank you, Rusty, so much for giving us a moment to reflect on and remember and lift up Peggy and Hope this morning. Our condolences to the families and friends of the 4 people killed in this tragic accident which took our beloved Peggy and Hope's lives last week. Many of you knew Peggy from her work here in the CDP. Others know her from her work on the 2008 and 2012 Obama campaigns. Others know her. Give her a round of applause. Give Hope a round of applause. Many know her from her organizing to repeal Prop 8, right? Remember that? And to build bridges between the Black and the LGBTQ plus community. That's what Peggy and Hope did. Others may know her from being a fierce advocate for Black women and women of color candidates across the state and the nation. I certainly know her. and her involvement with myself personally. But also to me, Peggy was a true friend. She was a constituent, and she was one of the best organizers that I've ever met, and I know that you've ever met. But you know, she was an organizer with a purpose. That's why Peggy and Hope made such a great team. They weren't just organizers, they also were the ones that organizers looked to become better organizers with a purpose. And some of you may recall after the '08 Obama election, Peggy and Hope crisscrossed the state doing trainings on how to tell the story of self, making our politics less about a 10-point plan and more about who we are, our lived experiences, and how we can make our democracy and nation work, not just for a few, but for everyone. And so today, as we remember Peggy and Hope with this video tribute, I stand here stronger than ever, like I know you do, committed to training the next generation of organizers with a purpose, helping to build bridges and grassroots power in our state and throughout the nation, and ensuring that we have a strong ground game into 2024 and long after. And so Peggy and Hope, we miss you, but the lessons that you taught us will never be forgotten. And as we know, your legacies and your spirits, they will guide this great California Democratic Party in our victories to come. And to Peggy and to Hope, we thank you and we love you. Let's now pay tribute to our beloved Peggy and Hope. Thank you again. God bless.
Yes, Peggy and Hope, rest in peace and rest in power, and we're going to continue to do the work that you moved forward for all of us. We know that there's some important elections ahead for us, and the only thing that matters in those elections are how we vote. When we show up and we make our voices heard, and I can't think of any place in the country that has made it easier to vote than California. And California Democrats have led the way on exactly that. And helping to move that forward is a leader who really needs no introduction, especially in this town, but our very own Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber, right? She's done so much. I want to say a couple nice things before she comes up here. Before we play her walk-on music, I know. She's like, just say my name, that's all you need to say, like, Beyonce or... But I think anyone who has had the opportunity to hang out with Dr. Weber knows what a remarkable leader she is. And it is, I think, a remarkable thing to be at the highest levels of leadership and still be authentic and real and connected with every single person that you meet, and to bring a remarkable story at the same time. And so I'm always inspired every time I get to hear Dr. Weber. So put your hands together and welcome San Diego's own, our Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber. I know I can just give you a name.
That's good, thank you. Give me some respect. Good morning. One more time. Good morning. All right, I like that. I like to know that I'm always talking to a living, energetic audience. I always say anyone dead should be buried. Let me say, first of all, thanks you so much for being here this morning. I am truly honored to have the opportunity to welcome you to San Diego, to a city that is finally turning blue, and proud of it. And so I'm just really grateful to you, those of you who've come here today to have your meeting and to prepare for tomorrow, the future. My staff has given me a lot of things to tell you, but these are things that you probably already know, because most of you are activists, are involved in the party. You know the challenge that we face. And I am grateful that I have the opportunity to be your Secretary of State because of my passion and my drive and my long history with my family in terms of voting in this nation, understanding what it feels like not to be able to vote, and believing that it is your true responsibility to vote. When I was sworn in about 3 years ago, I was asked, why are you leaving the legislature and going into this particular bureaucratic discussion of voting in the Secretary of State's office? And I had thought long and hard about this whole opportunity before the governor finally decided that's what he wanted after many discussions. And I had to think, and I said, you know what? This nation is in peril. And that's what I said in 2020. And the media looked at me and says, why are you saying that? They couldn't understand and they couldn't see what I was seeing, having traveled around the world and having seen nations that were in peril. But more importantly, having seen the same things happen to my parents and my grandparents that was happening in this country. The efforts to take away so many of our rights. And those with plenty of rights didn't think about what it felt like and what it was. And so when January 6th happened, the media called and said, oh my God, this nation is in peril. The democracy that we love is in peril. The misinformation and the disinformation that's being given to us each and every day is weakening us to the core. And so people are disillusioned, don't believe that they have anything to fight for. And there's so many issues out there that confuse us that people sometimes just say, I don't want to do any of it. But all of us know just how powerful it is. And California has done a lot to make it easy for people to vote. We passed legislation that allows those who've been formerly incarcerated to vote, those on parole and those on probation. I was author of all of those bills to make it possible for people to vote. And so when I stood in New Jersey this past fall, honoring Fannie Lou Hamer and installing her statue, I realized that there was something missing, that we had done the who should vote, the what, the where, the how, all of those things we had done, but we have failed to teach ourselves and our children the why. Why do we vote? So this summer, our office is going to do Freedom Summer 2, after the same thing that happened with Freedom Summer in '64, to try to help people understand why we vote, how important this democracy is, what happens when you don't vote, and how empowered you are when you do vote. Because we have this unique nation that is a fragile democracy that relies upon human beings, all of us, to make a decision and to participate and to respect each other. And if we have not learned anything in the last 3 years, we have learned how fragile we truly are, how everything we fought for over 100 years is slowly being ripped away. And who's going to carry that message but us? Who's going to help people understand why it is so critically important but us? Who but those of you who've been there before women had the right to actually vote and before women were in the legislature and understand all the things that have changed in this country? Who but those who have been dejected and rejected from so many places are going to basically remind us how far we have come and how quickly we can fall. This is what our mission is in our office. This is what our mission is in this nation. We've heard many times that this is going to be the most important election of our lives. Remember that phrase? This really is. This really is. When I read the things that come across my desk from other states, or how they're rolling back our rights, how they're having voter IDs, how they're basically talking about having states make decisions on their own aside from it, those are the same things that King and others fought so hard against. And now we're facing the same thing today. And we have to be vigilant. We have to be determined. We have to persevere. We have to fight like it is our life, because it truly is. And we have to help everybody else understand where we are and what we must do. There are so many things happening now that can easily divide us. Don't get distracted. We have lots of issues out there. This is not a perfect nation. We know that. We have lots of issues that could easily divide us. And while we fight for those issues, let us not lose our main purpose. We must maintain a presidency and a Congress that honors our values, that honors who we are, that will help us to restore all the freedoms that we've had in the past, and that they're willing to fight for us, regardless of some of the other things that are there. Let us not get distracted. There are a lot of things I would like to change, but I know I have one mission this coming November, and that is to get a Democrat in the Congress and a Democratic, basically, president, so that we can basically say, we are back on track. The world is counting on us, and it's not just about us alone. I can tell you, I was in Ghana this fall, and they are counting on us. They're the oldest democratic country in Africa, and they're talking about disinformation, misinformation. They're talking about the Trump group. They're talking about all those things because they are threatening their own democracy in Ghana. The world is counting on us, and we cannot fail. We cannot fail. We cannot falter. We cannot get tired. We cannot get weary, because there have been too many folks who fought for us for so long to get us where we are, that we cannot go down la-la land and forget from whence we have come. We cannot do that. And so I just wanted to remind you who we are, where we are, and what challenge we face. And I know you're tired. You're tired of the same old thing. You feel like you're hitting your head against a rock because we say these things and people go out and sometimes do something differently. But we have to be vigilant because they are vigilant. And I can tell you, I get the same lawsuits in my office every day from certain people just to changing the name and the person, because they are vigilant about destroying our voting system, about challenging our democracy at every point, about breaking away from us in terms of the federal government's rules and regulations. And we have seen the terror in the face of the Republican Party, that they will not stand up for what is right. We know that. And so it is only us. And so I want to challenge you not to get tired, not to get weary, because I know I sometimes think to myself, did my mother do this? Did my grandfather do this? Didn't somebody else do this? But we lose sight of when you got freedom, you have to work hard to maintain it. I've often said that hatred and discrimination and all of those things that we don't want in our lives are like weeds in the garden of life. They grow best when we neglect them. When we take our eye off the prize, when we don't see the significance of the Supreme Court, when we do all these things and we just kind of move along, they are working against us. And when we wake up, our garden will be full of weeds. Democracy, freedom, and justice is a rare flower. I can tell you that. And as a result of that, we have to prune it, we have to care for it, we have to water, we have to nurture it, we have to hold it close. Because that's the only way it will flourish. And it's a 24/7 job. But as I said, weed grows best in neglect. So let us keep our eyes on the prize. Let us know where we are. Let us make sure every member of our family, every child, every grandchild, every neighbor understands the power of this action that we're getting ready to be involved in, which is to rescue this nation, to put us back where we were headed on the track in terms of the respect for everyone, and to save not only the democracy here, but around the world. Thank you so much.
Let's give it up for Dr. Weber one more time. My goodness. Let the record show that that is Dr. Weber off script, which sounds like a great podcast that she could start. I like it. I like it. All the things that Dr. Weber reminded us of, the work that we do every single day, we know is for the next generation. To preserve our planet, to preserve our nation, to preserve our community, our democracy is for the next generation. But it's important that we're reminded that we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, that there's a lot of progress to be made and a lot of work to do, but there is progress that has been made. And May is Older Americans Month. And if you don't know, Henny Kelly will remind you that May is Older Americans Month. Thank you, Henny. And to take a moment to honor the contributions of our more senior Democrats who have led before and are leading today, please help me welcome our Senior Caucus Chair, Mike Thaller. Mike?
Thank you. I'm really honored to follow Shirley Weber, my fellow San Diegan. But I'm here to talk about, well, how many of you have ever heard of Older Americans Month? Those of you who haven't have a short-term memory problem. Older Americans Month was proclaimed by President John Kennedy a few months before we lost him, 61 years ago. It's actually been in effect that whole time. But last month, in fact, about 3 weeks ago, President Biden reaffirmed it. And I think that was extremely appropriate since he is getting so much criticism just for his age. But this is all very personal to me, and I'm going to try to keep from tearing up a little bit. Basically, I prefer to older Americans or the term tenured party members or party elders in the same sense that the Native Americans use that term. And I feel like we're being discounted. In fact, we are being discounted. So ask not to discount us. You know, our biggest value, I think, to the party and maybe to life in general as elders is our memory. And I made a list of things that we remember that are an asset to the party and to the country, for that matter. For instance, we remember the Vietnam protests from like 55, 60 years ago. We were there. We are observing the way protesters are being treated today. And, you know, we have ideas of how we can keep that peaceful because that wasn't we weren't given the opportunity to keep ours peaceful. Another thing we remember is when abortions were illegal and the effort put in by us and our fellow people to make it legal. Yes. Thank you for the yes. And I think we should celebrate that. We also remember how new technology took over the way we live. And this was not really a struggle, but we remember having to learn to change the way we thought and the way we did things. And that's happening now. And we talk to us. We know what it takes and how to go through that. I think that's something we should celebrate. We also remember when we could disagree with each other and still remain friends. We should celebrate that and try to bring that back. We remember when California was a red state, and how much work it took for this party and those of us in it, and our elders in particular, to get it blue. We should celebrate that. We also remember many successful campaigns that we worked on and some unsuccessful campaigns that we worked on. And we should celebrate that and learn from it. We learned from it. We want to share that knowledge. We should celebrate that. And remember, seniors vote. So please realize that and encourage us and encourage all seniors to vote. And we should celebrate that. Seniors have institutional knowledge of this party and almost everything else, really. And as I saw a bumper sticker that said, "I'm old, I know everything, and I have plenty of time to tell you about it." But all kidding aside, I think that's something that we should celebrate. And the bottom line is older people are an asset to the party and to the world, I guess. And certainly the nation. And I think we should celebrate Older Americans Month every May and every month, along with all the other months that there are. So I want to close, if I can find it, by reading how President Biden wrapped up his reaffirmation of the month. He said, "I, Joseph Biden Jr., President of the United States, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim May as Older Americans Month, this month and beyond. I call upon all Americans to celebrate older adults and their contributions, support their independence, and recognize their unparalleled value to our nation." Replace the word nation in your mind with party. Because we've been here a long time and we really feel we're an asset and we don't want to be discounted. So happy Older Americans Month, and thank you very much.
Next up, CADEM Vice Chair Betty Yee. Please give her a warm welcome.
Good morning, Democrats. Welcome to San Diego, and thank you for coming together in our last gathering before the big push to November. Thank you, Michael, for the tribute and really honoring our older Americans. May is a great month because we really celebrate our diversity during this time. It is also a time that we celebrate AA NHPI Heritage Month. And when Vincent asked me what I wanted my walk-up song to be, I said, well, you choose, and that's fine, whatever. And so this girl is on fire made me think about the girl who's on fire in my life, and that's my 101-year-old mother. You've heard a lot today about just how we celebrate our older Americans, but also what's at stake in these elections. Yes, she has seen a lot. And yes, she has not given up. And I will tell you, the time that I get to spend with her as a part-time caregiver is one of the best blessings of my life, particularly now when so much is at stake. The lessons that she continues to teach me about staying involved. She was the first person I called after the Dobbs decision, not knowing where she stood on reproductive rights, but it was very clear where she stood. I didn't live to be near 100 years old to see this for my great-granddaughters. in the future. And you continue to fight like hell. And when we are inspired by those who have seen rights curtailed or not even fully developed yet, when we're around people who understand that they have a role in terms of determining a safe and free future for generations to come, we know what our work is as Democrats. And this is what is really at stake. And I want to just thank all of you for the work that we've done so far, and there is much more to do going forward. Many of us were friends of Peggy Moore, and to Rusty's point, really kind of the organizer extraordinaire. This is what this party is going to be doing between now and November. And I want to thank our organizing team, our CADEM staff for continuing to do this work, because this is how we win elections. It will be on the ground, person to person. And thank you to all of you who have already supported, and I hope many more of you will support, the all-day organizing training that we will be sponsoring in Merced to teach organizing volunteers from the very districts to build that long-term infrastructure about how we speak to our neighbors, how we speak to our family members, and how we know that they are going to be invested in their very own future and helping these communities, frankly, build resilience. As I think about my 101-year-old mother, and thank you to many of you who have expressed warm wishes, she's been in ill health recently. I also think about just the work that we need to continue to do to be sure that many of our older Californians are going to be able to live in dignity. And when we venture in places like the Central Valley, when we venture in some of the places where we have not really touched deeply, we understand what our purpose is, as Dr. Weber says. We understand why we are doing this work each and every single day. We understand why there is no such thing as tired in our vocabulary as activists. Because we understand, as my mother always puts it, before every election day where she casts her ballot, and then not only casts her ballot but calls all of her friends to say, get your ballot in, is that voting is not just a right. Voting is our power. And we must not give up on that. And this is the work that we are going to inspire and instill in each and every single voter throughout California, each and every Democrat to show up in November, and more importantly, to create that future where each of us can see themselves in it and continue to thrive in this great democracy. Thank you, Democrats. Let's win this.
Family, let's show some love for CADEM Vice Chair David Campos.
Good morning, California Democrats. Buenos dias. Okay, have we had our coffee yet? Good morning, California Democrats. All right, that's better. I do want to begin, before I say anything else, by acknowledging the incredible staff of the California Democratic Party, Yvette Martinez and her amazing team, Emma, Vincent in the back. So much goes into putting this event together, and we're really grateful for the work. You know, I talked yesterday in our meeting with some key leaders in the party about my recent visit to Washington, D.C. In my job for the county of Santa Clara. And there's an eerie feeling in D.C. right now. And if you talk to people on the Hill, people in the old executive building, in the White House, there is a sense that the clock is ticking and they're not really sure what this city will look like next year. And those of us who are keeping an eye on the presidential election, the election of November, we know we're 170 days, 15 hours, and 9 minutes away from the presidential election. 170 days, 15 hours. And you ask yourself, what kind of country are we going to have in 171 days? On what path is this country? And I'll be honest with you, I've had a really hard time understanding how, after 4 years of the Trump presidency, and all the horrible things that happen, that we still find ourselves in a situation where so much of the country is actually ready to re-elect this man. In 2020, in many respects, we had the luxury of talking about the fear of what could happen. And in many respects, that election and the fear of the horrible things that Trump would do worked. But I believe that fear alone is no longer what's going to win an election. If fear mattered, this election would be done by now. Women just lost the right to choose for themselves what to do with their bodies in this country. Those of us who are immigrants, and I came here as an undocumented person, as a dreamer, we already know what he's going to do. He already said he's going to have concentration camps throughout the country, and he's going to basically gather millions of people and put them in those camps. He's saying that openly. He's talking about diversity like it's a dirty word. In places like Florida, you can't even say the word gay. And for those of us who are queer, what does that say about what these people think about us? If you talk about the rights of people of color, you're accused of trying to divide this country. And so that's what we're faced. And that is compounded by the fact that we as Democrats, because we have a conscience and because we have a right and a belief that we can disagree on things, we have some very important issues, very critical issues that we know have the potential to divide us. All of that raises the question of what's going to happen in 170 days. Is it going to be 1968, where a country so divided, a Democratic Party so divided, and what happened in Chicago, is that going to repeat itself again in Chicago? Let's remember what happened in 1968. We got Richard Nixon in 1968. So we as Democrats have a choice. And you know, we played We Are Family today. We are a family as Democrats. And we're going to have some very tough conversations in the next few months. And we're going to be very upset with each other. And perhaps we're going to hate each other at times. But as family, we cannot let ourselves be divided. We cannot let ourselves be divided. Because the outcome of that division is Donald Trump. That's plain and simple. But I will end with this, as someone who spent a lot of time in San Francisco and now in Santa Clara. It is not enough to talk about the fear of what is going to go wrong. People already know that, and yet this man could still win. We have to give people a reason to come out and vote for something. In the words of Harvey Milk, that queer man who died for his cause, for a community, we have to give them hope. We as Democrats have to give people a reason to believe that things matter. Because they're hoping, the other side is hoping that despair will keep them from voting. So Democrats, we have to go back to our values. We have to stand up for renters in November. We have to stand up for women's rights. We have to stand up for transgender rights, for queer rights, for immigrant rights. We have to give them hope. We have 170 days to do that. And it's this room, the leadership of this party in California, that I think will ultimately decide what kind of country we have in 170 days. California Democrats, let's give them hope. Thank you.
Democrats, please give a warm welcome for CADEM Controller Carolyn Fowler.
Hey, California Democrats, San Diego, thank you, glad to be here. On a lighter note, I want to make sure that there are representatives from each of your areas joining us today for that interactive compliance peer training. This is our third edition of that. Particularly now that it's presidential time, we're focusing more on federal training. And so for all the controllers, treasurers, club treasurers, and those of you that manage the consultants that do your accounts, we've had great feedback about this. So if you can, it starts at 10 o'clock. It's going to be in Silver Pearl 3. And you can still register online through Mobilize or CADEM.org. And just make sure that all these finances are in order as we move forward. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is much more fun, is our DEM Bingo tonight, which is being hosted. See, those people have been before and they've won. That's why you're hearing them. It's being hosted tonight by our State Treasurer, Fiona Ma, and my Assembly member, Tina McKenna. So that's going to be held this evening at 8 o'clock. And so I just wanted to close with reinforcing what Dr. Weber said about being distracted. When you see the Speaker of the House at the criminal courts with the former president, I don't know what else you need to say that you need to vote. Would you agree with that? I mean, there's nothing more powerful a message. So let's go, let's win, and I'll see you this evening. Thank you.
Delegates and guests, please welcome CADEM Secretary Diana Love.
Good morning. The theme today is UNITY, unity. Can I hear a clap on unity? I want to start my report today with thank yous. I'm so proud of where I live in the Antelope Valley, Palmdale, Lancaster, and the surrounding areas. So we had our first CADEM fundraiser held in January, and it was entitled Defend Our Democracy, and we made some money, a lot of money in our community. So I want to thank my co-hosts, Regional 11 Director Zeta Gazarian. Please raise your hand. ADEM 34 Executive Board Member Ann McKeon. ADEM 39 Executive Board Member Tiffany Countryman. AD Chair of 34 Suzanne Reyna. AD Chair 39 Bob Forche. And all the attendees and the panelists and guests that attended. And I want to give a special shout out to SEIU 2015 for their support and attendance. Thank you all. It was a great time for us in the Antelope Valley, and I'm very proud of all of us. And we will do it again. So since we last met, I have continued as secretary to uphold the bylaws, travel, attend, and speak at various meetings, and support and sponsor many events. In addition to continuing to the 58 counties and saying thank you on behalf of CADEM as an officer to all the members who have participated in getting candidates elected up and down their counties. And as I travel, I have reminded them that our struggles are real. We have a lot to do, as all the officers and all the speakers have said previously. And we're doing it on the ground to defend our American democracy. And as we go into the general elections, and you are speaking with people, especially young people, remind them of examples of our privileges that are on the line to keep us from going in a backward trend. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have for the last 3 years been working on behalf of the American people. And we may at times not all agree, but we do agree about our freedoms that can be taken away, and that is what is on the line. In November, when we go to vote, we will be deciding on our reproductive freedoms, our health care, Medicare for all, gun safety, and much, much more. Our fundamental freedoms are on the line. But let me end with this reminder. I read an email in February sent by the Progressive Dem Club. It was about the 100th anniversary of the KKK attack on the industrial workers of the World Harbor area members, and they were assaulted and murdered. There was a remembrance procession organized in San Pedro, and the objective was to raise awareness of the labor attacks. This is just one form of history, and a reminder of what can happen to all people. Segregation in many ways. Please remind people of the tragedies of the past in cultures and diversity of all people that we have to continue to strongly advocate in the present by voting so that the present does not become the past. Thank you.
Let's give it up for our statewide officers one more time. I'm certainly grateful for their leadership and their partnership in all of this important work that we do. We have one last section before we get about the rest of our business here this weekend. We've talked about how important the upcoming November election really is, where the choice is pretty clear. Elections are about choices, and we've got a pretty clear choice in November. And California is in many ways leading the way to ensure that we protect and preserve our democracy. While we see congressional Republicans trying to gut the social safety net in our country, it's Democrats that are standing up to protect Social Security and Medicare and that social safety net. While a conservative court takes away the right to an abortion in this country, we actually here in California, as California Democrats, that led the way to enshrine the right to an abortion in the California Constitution. While Republicans are standing up at fundraisers and saying they're going to give a tax break to the wealthy and the well-connected, it's Democrats that are actually raising the minimum wage and making it easier to join a union in this country. And while you have Donald Trump openly saying to big oil, give me $1 million, give me $1 billion, and I'll give you anything and everything that you want, basically selling the White House out in public. It's Democrats that are standing up, protecting and preserving and healing our planet and addressing the impacts of climate change to our planet. The choice in November, I think, is pretty clear. And the California Democratic Party, certainly for the last many years, but certainly in earnest in the last 2 years, has been investing in on-the-ground organizing to make sure that we do our part in November. We really have two major objectives. There's a lot of important issues that are going to be on the ballot. Probably nearly every issue is on the ballot. But it's our job to deliver those electoral votes to re-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the White House. And number two, the House runs through California. It's our job to ensure that we retake the House of Representatives. There's as many as, depending on who you talk to, for me, there's about 8 targeted seats here in California. in more seats than many other states have. We have as battlegrounds right here in California. We've invested money and resources and talent and tools into all of these targeted regions around the state, and I'm really proud of our organizing department and their incredible work. Do I have our organizers in the room? Can we give them a big, big round of applause? Thank you for your incredible work. Because these elections will come down to just a few votes. Now, I can tell you, we can organize and organize and organize, and that's exactly what we're doing. But sometimes the candidate that you support can make that easy or hard. And this cycle, I'm excited about the candidates that we have, and one in particular who is running again, ran in 2022, is running again here in 2024 in Congressional District 41 against that guy, Ken Calvert. Let's give it up for Will Rollins. Will?
All right, good morning, Democrats. Fired up? Yeah. Ready to win? Yeah. Me too, because I've been campaigning for 3 years, you guys. I'm gonna be fully gray by the end of this. I am so proud and honored to be back with you all today. And I wanna share a little bit about my why and why I am grateful for the California Democratic Party having my back in 2024 when we are gonna get the job done in California 41. So for those of you who haven't yet met me, I'm Will Rollins. I'm the nominee in California 41. I'm a former federal prosecutor. I had wanted to work in national security since I was a kid. Walked into my first class of the day on September 11, 2001, saw the North Tower collapse, and thought about enlisting in the military, but was closeted, petrified of being outed, and yet didn't want to give up on my goal of doing something in counterterrorism. So I went to Dartmouth, I took Arabic, I applied to the CIA, I sucked at Arabic, I never heard back from the CIA. And that's where my story ends. So thank you guys for having me. No, I'm kidding, I'm persistent, made it to law school, clerked for a couple of federal judges. Second judge I clerked for said, hey, did you know the local US Attorney's Office has a national security division? No, I did not. She suggested I applied, I did, got hired, absolutely loved the job. Loved working with the FBI on the threats this country faces from Russia, China, Iran, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. But I was hired under the Obama administration in 2016, shortly before that presidential election. And what happened after that? Huge rise in the threats from domestic terrorism, whether it was neo-Nazis attacking Charlottesville or QAnon conspiracy theorists going after US Navy hospital ships, or January 6th. And that's what got me into this race. Because while those of us in federal law enforcement were responding to the attack, Ken Calvert, my opponent, was voting to decertify the election, voting against a committee to even investigate the attack, and then the final straw for me, calling for dropping charges. So, yeah, launched in a Trump +7 seat. Everybody said it was unwinnable. Famous last words to my partner, I promise I'll only do this once. Our credit card now reflects that I've done it twice. And everybody wrote us off. Fast forward to November of 2022, I'm up by 10,000 votes on election day. The district has been redrawn. And I'm invited to go back to something called new member training in Washington, D.C. Party believes I've won the election. We thought the remaining mail-in ballots were going to break our way. And I literally found out that I lost on the floor of the House of Representatives. And I'm not going to lie, after that loss, I thought long and hard about going back into law enforcement, because for the candidates in this room, I know you can relate when I say that helping the FBI catch bad guys is a lot more fun than asking people for money. But as I was having that thought, shortly after the election, I saw an announcement that Donald Trump was running again in 2024. And that last set of cases all came flooding back into my mind. The Beverly Hills salon owner standing on the steps of the US Capitol with a bullhorn, calling for angry patriots to bring in the gas masks and weapons to stop the peaceful transfer of power. And then standing in a hallway as a Capitol police officer is crushed in a door by her fellow rioters. And I realized in that moment that no matter how much fun and rewarding it might be to stand up in court and say, I represent the United States of America and defend our Constitution there, none of that matters if we do not also have political leadership in the House of Representatives willing to do the exact same thing in Washington. And that is why I am grateful to have the Democratic Party's support in this next election, because what you guys have done for us already is incredible. We've got a field office opened in the Coachella Valley with some of our other great down ballot candidates like Lisa Middleton and Christy Holstage. Our Riverside County Party Chair, Joy Silver, is here and is helping to win all of those elections in November. You've invested in organizing. You are targeting the low propensity Democrats who are going to come out for us in November who didn't show up in the midterms. We are going district by district, precinct by precinct to make sure those voters show up for us in the fall. And we're going to flip these seats. Because the reality is, a lot of people today have talked about this. Yes, our party needs unity, but we also need to be a big tent coalition for even moderate Republicans and independents who are looking for a home and a party that believes in democracy and the rule of law. That is the coalition. That is the coalition that's going to flip these seats. Because the truth is that every single one of us in this room is going to be asked the same question by our kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, years from now, which is, what did you do when the house was on fire? That's right. Our answer is going to be that we beat election deniers all over the state of California. We took back the House of Representatives and we elected Hakeem Jeffries, the next Speaker of the House. Thank you guys so much for your support. Let's get this done. Thank you, thank you.
Let's give it up for Will Rollins one more time. Are we going to help get him elected? We're going to do our part here as California Democrats. Well, Democrats, I want to thank you for joining us this morning for our general session. I know we've got a number of important committees and caucuses and all that good work to do, and we will see you out in the halls. Let's get to work. Thanks, everybody.